Tensions in the South China Sea have reached a boiling point. A direct face-off has just unfolded at Scarborough Shoal, one of the most contested flashpoints in the region. This time, it wasn't just the Philippines standing its ground. A U.S. Navy destroyer, the USS Higgins, joined Manila in a dramatic confrontation with Chinese warships. The result? Beijing is reportedly furious, and the stakes for the entire Indo-Pacific have just gotten much higher. Welcome to GeoFrontline, your channel for breaking insights into global power plays, military conflicts, and the strategies shaping tomorrow's world. The Scarborough Shoal, a triangular chain of reefs and rocks located just 124 nautical miles from the Philippines' Zambales province, has long been a symbol of China's maritime expansion. Despite lying well within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, Beijing seized control of the shoal back in 2012 and has since guarded it with Coast Guard ships and maritime militia. For years, Filipino fishermen have been harassed and blocked, sparking outrage in Manila. But now, the game has changed. In a bold show of solidarity, the USS Higgins, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, sailed directly into the disputed waters, operating alongside Philippine resupply vessels. Sources confirm that at least 3 Chinese warships and several Coast Guard cutters attempted to block the maneuver. What followed was a tense standoff, the Philippines and the United States holding their line, with Chinese loudspeakers blaring warnings and PLA ships circling dangerously close. Here's the question that rattled observers. Was this just a freedom of navigation operation, or a direct message to Beijing that Manila and Washington are now prepared to act together militarily in defense of Philippine sovereignty? The answer might lie in the timing. Just days ago, Washington and Manila confirmed that over 500 joint military drills are planned for 2026, the largest scale in their alliance's history. This includes naval drills specifically near contested shoals, and features the deployment of advanced missile systems like the BrahMos, which the Philippines recently acquired. The Higgins' arrival at Scarborough was no coincidence. It was a calculated signal. Any move against Philippine sovereignty will now trigger a U.S. response. For China, the incident is deeply humiliating. State media immediately blasted the U.S. and Philippines, claiming they had violated Chinese territorial waters and warning of serious consequences. But Beijing knows it faces a dilemma. On one hand, if it escalates with force, it risks direct conflict with the United States, something its military is not fully prepared for in 2025, given its slowing economy and the ongoing naval modernization race. On the other hand, if China does nothing, it emboldens Manila and Washington to push back harder, weakening Beijing's claim over the South China Sea. So what happens next? Let's examine the strategic layers. First, the Philippines is no longer the isolated regional actor it was in 2012. Back then, when China seized Scarborough, Manila had little military support. Today, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has rallied unprecedented backing, not only from Washington, but also from Japan, Australia, and even the European Union, which recently condemned Chinese harassment of Filipino ships. Second, Scarborough Shoal is not just about fishing rights, it's a potential military outpost. Analysts warn that if China builds an artificial island there, similar to its bases in the Spratlys, it could extend the PLA Navy's range deep into the Philippine Sea, directly threatening Luzon and choking off vital U.S. supply lines in the Pacific. By confronting China now, the Philippines and the U.S. may be preventing a much larger strategic disaster down the line. Third, the psychological factor. Filipino pride is at stake. Videos of Chinese ships firing water cannons at Filipino fishermen have outraged the public, and the Marcos administration knows it cannot afford to appear weak. By bringing in the USS Higgins, Manila is sending a message, not only to China, but also to its own people. The Philippines will not be bullied anymore. Yet, here's the suspense. Could this confrontation spiral into something much bigger? Consider this. China has already stationed its advanced J-11 fighter jets at nearby bases and deployed DF-21D carrier killer missiles to coastal provinces. Meanwhile, the U.S. has been quietly rotating forces through Philippine bases. Under the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, if another clash occurs, say a Chinese ship ramming a Philippine vessel or firing live rounds, it could immediately trigger calls in Washington for a stronger military response. Remember, the U.S. Philippines Mutual Defense Treaty explicitly covers attacks on Philippine forces, including those at sea. So Beijing's fury is not just bluster. It reflects a real fear that the Philippines has flipped the balance. No longer the underdog, Manila is now backed by the world's most powerful navy and a coalition of allies who see the South China Sea as the front line of global freedom of navigation. By the end of this standoff, the message is crystal clear. The Philippines is not alone. The presence of the USS Higgins at Scarborough Shoal proves that Manila's waters are now a red line, not just for Filipinos, but for the entire US-led alliance system in Asia. The big question remains: how far is China willing to go? Will it escalate to save face, risking war it may not win? Or will Beijing grudgingly accept that the Philippines, once seen as vulnerable, has now become the frontline defender of the first island chain? Either way, one thing is certain: this confrontation has shifted the narrative. Scarborough Shoal is no longer just about reefs and fishing boats. It is about sovereignty, alliances, and the future of the Indo-Pacific order. And as Beijing fumes, Manila and Washington are quietly celebrating a historic moment. Proof that when allies stand together, even the most aggressive expansion can be stopped in its tracks. This is just the beginning.